All right, everyone. Last time I checked in with you about the VinFast, I had driven it out to Colorado and left it with my dear friend Jordan here, colleague at Out of Spec, and I took back Beak, the Model 3 from the Out of Spec team. I definitely have missed the VinFast, but we've been able to be doing some testing out in Colorado, and recently, she was doing okay. We were just getting the results from the tests, but Jordan, it seems like we've run into some issues with the VinFast VF8 of the Out of Spec team. So in today's episode, you're going to update me just on kind of basically what's been going down, what's been going right, and then what's been going wrong with the VinFast. So let's plug in. This episode is made possible by the support we get from Fort Collins Kia. If you are in the market for any electric Kia, not only do they never add market adjustments, they will deliver your car to you anywhere in the 48 contiguous states for out-of-spec viewers. More information in the link in the show notes. Hey, Jordan, thanks for joining me to let me know what on earth is going on with the VinFast out in Colorado.
Right. Not even just Colorado. I've had it back over to Kansas City, Missouri. I took it on a road trip, about 1,300 miles. 1,300 relatively trouble-free miles, by the way. Didn't really have any issues. I say that this car does have occasional quirks and sometimes issues, but they typically are temporary. So since you left, me and Kyle have lived with it a bit. We haven't finished our testing, but I've been trying to kind of get an understanding of the optimal charge curve. I also did the standardized 70-mile-an-hour range test, which you were pretty much right on the money as far as your guess.
That was pretty good. Yeah. Maybe let's talk about the testing really quick, because I got to do the 10% challenge where you charge it up to for 15 minutes and then right from 10% for 15 minutes. See at a fully functioning charger, fully functioning EV, and I drive it until I'm down. How does it work?
Yeah, it's testing what 15 minutes of charging would get you on like highway range. Like how far can you go on a 15-minute charge if you're road tripping?
That wasn't great.
Yeah, it did like passably, but like compared to a lot of other cars, just really not great. And that's been kind of my takeaway of the VinFast. Having tested practically every EV, it's really, there's very few things it does better than the competition, and usually it does worse. Maybe not astronomically worse, but it's like it's not class leading in charging or technology or sound system or infotainment or range. I mean, the range is actually decent, and that's something I took advantage of on my road trip. And I think we should do a whole other episode on comparing our road trip experiences. But
we should.
All that to say, the car's been okay. On the range test and on the road trip, I did have some brief issues of the driver's assistance just completely stopping functioning. It would just say driver's assistance error, take over immediately. I did, and then I'd keep driving, and then I didn't pull over and stop or anything. I just kept going, and then it suddenly was like, okay, now you can do it again. So
yeah, I've had that too. Even when it's like take over and then it never actually exits. I can actually stay in it. So that is my favorite feature, but I have noticed a few of those quirks as well. And for the 70 mile an hour range test, what were the results that we got? Just in case folks should go watch all the tests on the Out of Spec Reviews channel, but its EPA estimated range is
264.
264.
And so it went to 46. So pretty close, like decently close to EPA. It didn't hit EPA, but also many cars don't. So that's not the VinFast thing specifically. Down low in the battery, it was like a bit interesting. The car shut off AC without telling me it was shutting off AC. And so the last couple percent, basically the last 8 miles, I had no air conditioning, even though the car thinks it still was using air conditioning. So it seems to be some things that really cuts out down low. And also the mileage guessometer cannot be relied on. It's really just a stated range guessometer. So it's just taking a percentage of the EPA estimate. So when it has 1%, it says 2.7 miles remaining of range. And then when it hits 0%, that 2.7 drops to 0. It doesn't like climb its way down like 2.7 to 1. It's just
I
like,
see what you mean.
oh, nothing.
Mhm.
So it's just not very granular. And on the other hand, is VinFast is a young company and they're still working out a lot of things. They're always pushing out updates. You recently had the car updated a couple months ago, which this all leads into the story. And there's already more updates. So it's cool that they're pushing out updates. It's frustrating that they still don't have over-the-air update functionality here in the States. Other countries may be getting that, but here in the US, no over-the-air update functionality, which drastically hurts this car as well compared to the competition, which most of the competition gets over-the-air updates. So you do have to take it to a service center. There's also not that many service centers. So you're really stuck if you own a VinFast and don't live somewhere near a service center. Speaking of stuck, I recently was stranded.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the main point of this. The main point of this episode is really just, after my road trip, got home, went inside. It was like 1 a.m. I was super tired, but I did lock it. Like I got out of the car, locked it. That's supposed to turn it off, the normal things. And then I get out the next morning, the car was like 13% battery less than when I parked it. I was like, that's weird because this car is actually pretty good at not phantom draining. Typically, it's about the same percentage as you leave it the day before. So I got out to the car. The battery was much lower, and then I got in, and it was like coolant system malfunction. There was no air conditioning. The car didn't know there was no air conditioning, but like I could clearly tell that was not functioning. So that was a little funny. Me and Timon were going to head up to Fort Collins to see Kyle's. We had like a housewarming party and like an office hub party. So we were like, okay, we're not going to take the VinFast, no AC. So we took that over to Andreas's place, took Andreas's Model 3 up to Fort Collins. That was fantastic. And spent the day at Fort Collins, came back down in the evening. VinFast was left on the level 2 charger. We get back and it won't go into gear. The car boots up, but then a bunch of faults and warnings come on the screen, like what you're showing here on the screen. And for our visual watchers, audio listeners, I can tell you it's forward collision warning, automatic emergency braking unavailable, vehicle drive system fault, it cannot go into gear, highway assists, just a bunch of, it's clearly freaking out. So
all the errors. And I've never seen this many errors come up, nor like a real big problem like this happen. This is definitely new since our ownership of the VinFast. We've had it we've needed to restart it, and I had some buttons not working on the steering wheel, but a 12-volt battery reset fixed that stuff. And the software update that you spoke about that I stopped and got in Wichita, Kansas on my way out to Colorado, that got rid of a lot of the glitchiness that I had spoken about before, random errors coming out. But this is a real true big fault of a lot of pretty essential functionality that seems to be happening at this point in the story.
Yeah, kind of most of the essential functionality. I mean, the car would not drive or go into reverse. It would do park or neutral. So we were able to put in neutral, and physically 3 of us pushed it into another parking space. But it's I mean, kind of terrifying because, fortunately I was in a safe space at a friend's house. The car was in a place that it could be left. I had people to get me home, but it's if this were to happen anywhere else, I mean, I thought about stopping at a level 2 charger in Kansas, and I was like, maybe I'll just car camp here and then, keep going the next morning. And this could have happened then, and then I would have been stranded in Kansas. Granted, that would be closer to Wichita, but still hundreds of miles from Wichita, not nearby. So
not great.
That's the more, I think that's the more serious aspect is this is a pretty significant issue that could genuinely leave someone stranded. And what seems to be unfolding from the story is, well, if you have a VinFast or if you're looking to buy a VinFast, you should just keep it in your town near a service area because there's so many things that could happen. Now, this was remedied, but what's confusing is that those main issues fixed themselves. And there's a lot of speculation. I did a whole video on Spec reviews on what happened, the unfolding of all the events. But essentially 2 days into it, and I've been working with VinFast. VinFast reached out, to their credit. I really appreciate that. They were trying to help. I was on the phone with technicians and communications people, and like they wanted to help, but they couldn't really do much. They were collecting remote diagnostics. I'm glad the car was turning on. I mean, if the car wouldn't turn on, like if it was some other sensor that was faulting out, it's like, who knows what they'd have to do. They were talking about maybe flying a technician out, which seems to be an option. It's not just for us. Like they have this thing called flying doctors that they can dispatch. But if you're out of a state where VinFast does not exist, in our case, Colorado, then you might be responsible for the cost of flying them out there. Even if this is a warranty issue with the car, the warranty doesn't leave the state. And I didn't know that was even possible or legal.
Yeah, that doesn't. I'll also like that doesn't seem like in VinFast's interest. So you want to sell these to anyone who will take them, have anyone lease them, and have a great customer relationship, right? It's great that they reached out. I've dealt with customer service before with that team. They're great, really responsive. But to say like, yeah, we have a flying doctor, but you're gonna have to pay for their travel to fix your car that we sold you that should not be doing this. Yeah, that doesn't really line up.
And I think I argue with Kyle a bit on this too. And he's like, well, we expected this, like this was a risk we were willing to take. It's like, if something's wrong with the car, it's up to us to get it back to VinFast. But I was like, I get it if it's something, supernatural, like a flat tire or like you crash, like, but if it's like the car's fault, like manufacturer issue, that I shouldn't be responsible for any component of this. Sure, it's my doing to take it on a road trip and take it out of the original area of purchase, but that should be an upfront, like very blatantly set up front, like, and I'm sure it was in fine print somewhere, but it wasn't like, when you and Kyle got the car, I'm guessing you weren't explicitly
they didn't say anything about that. No. And people have asked us along the way, been like, what are you going to do? Like if it needs servicing? I'm like, well, I don't know. That'll be part of it. But never was that, I don't know, including this limitation of the coverage, basically of the help that you could get. I never knew about that. And the dealership, which was, pretty good for us, has been good to other customers, but like on sale, they knew, if this was not going to be a North Carolina vehicle. Didn't really hear anything about that. And so that's a good thing to know. I mean, I wonder how common this is with other automakers.
That's the thing, is I don't think this scenario is super common, because just as it is, not many people do road trips in EVs. And the only non-traditional automakers are pretty much all EVs. And so I think there are very few people that are taking limited sale cars out of their original region. No one I've seen has really mentioned ever seeing a VinFast on a road trip or even a Fisker on a road trip. But this was an interesting, the parallel I drew in my mind was, is this what some Fisker owners could experience? But they would be worse, because I had VinFast on my side. VinFast is a company that's alive. They were talking to me on the phone. Fisker, you don't have that.
No.
So with Fisker, hopefully you know how to do a 12-volt battery reset, because that's probably what will fix a lot of issues.
Yeah, did it fix anything?
Well, the issue with the VinFast is no one initially knew how to do that. Like, undoing the 12-volt connection is not a 12-volt battery reset. That didn't actually do anything, because the car would not actually shut off. To force the car to shut off, you have to pull the 12-volt battery and then pull a 40-amp fuse underneath the fuse box. It's the ER supply fuse. I didn't mention that explicitly in the video, and I should have. I was just, so flabbergasted that it was working suddenly that I just didn't think to film that. But I should clarify, that was not the fix for the main issues. That was fixing the coolant system error and the air conditioning, which that all broke before I level 2 charged it. People in the comments, and possibly quite validly, are pointing out perhaps it was caused by the level 2 charging. Something overheated. VinFast, when they were checking the diagnostic logs, found that something had indeed been really warm in regards to how the battery's getting feed from the level 2 charger. And so it could have been where it just got warm, threw the car for a loop, like a sensor completely freaked out, cascading into other sensors. And so basically, when you plug in a level 2 charger, it's supposed to cool that area, like cool the charging port probably and the cables, and like, keep it safe and cool. And perhaps that never actually shut off when we stopped charging the car. So that was causing phantom drain. The car was freaking out. It maybe, who knows? But it's very interesting that charging the car again on level 2 is what fixed itself. It's like everything suddenly was like, oh, never mind. I know what we're doing now. We're charging. Whereas for a while, the car was like not sure what was going on. So it just wouldn't let you go into drive or do anything. So it broke itself and then fixed itself. Super confusing. I was confused. VinFast was confused. Like,
that's the best outcome, though, is that, and it does seem to be a little bit of a trend with the VinFast. I mean, of course, we would like to not have these issues, but like, for instance, when it was super glitchy in the beginning, I'd get an error would come, it would quote unquote fix itself, or either way, the error would go away. It wasn't this big of a deal, but it's kind of like, okay, something happened where I guess this isn't my problem anymore. And this is obviously ramping that up like times 100. But still, yeah, it seemed to fix itself by kind of like re-going through that process and reestablishing it. And, I'm kind of like personifying the car, but basically that's kind of what I'm hearing. So is she good? Basically,
almost. So you're right. It fixed itself, which is good, but I almost say that's worse because I'd like to know what the fix would be, really. And I do think there's validity to what people are maybe saying, like something didn't work correctly in the charging sequences, and so the car just didn't understand that it was done charging or something, and so charging it again, the car go through its checks on how that all functions and then fix itself. So that's valid. Like, okay, if this happens again, maybe level 2 charging it again will fix it. And if it happens from level 2 charging, then you're probably still next to a level 2 charger. So try again, I guess.
Lesson learned, everyone.
Pulling the 12 volt and the fuse is not recommended. I should clarify that too. VinFast doesn't really want people to do that, but that is like how to really kill the car, to force the car to completely reboot. And so that's why I say it's not quite perfect, because now the 12 volt battery needs recalibrated. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that recalibration is. It'd be great to get clarification from VinFast, like why does it need to be recalibrated? I mean, sure, anytime something technical is done, like if calibration is needed to optimize things, but like, are we okay to keep driving it, or is like something going to get further and further off with the 12 volt if it's not recalibrated? TPMS also stopped working. That's expected, and that might actually remedy itself. I'm going to pick up the car later today. It's still at Andreas's, but not stuck anymore. It's just parked there.
And that's the tire pressure monitoring system, right?
Yeah. So at the moment, the car doesn't know what the TPMS, the tire pressures are, and there's technically a 12 volt calibration that has to happen at a service center. And there's also, new updates that have come out. So basically, to go into, okay, what's next? I don't see a reason to not keep doing our testing. There's not much to do left besides like still trying to figure out the charging curve, but it's really not great, but we still want to map it out. And it seems to be fairly, not linear, but like initially like 140 kilowatts, 135-ish, and then it drops to like 80-ish, 90 to 80 for a while. Like it does hold it up to like 85%. So it's not the worst, but it's really not good. And that's why the road trip was, I think, slightly less than ideal. Like many other cars would have done better, but it still did it. But yeah, so that's kind of like what's next. VinFast is like, oh, can you get out to California? It's like, well, if all it has to do is go to a service center, Wichita makes more sense. Basically, when you're getting your car back, going back through Wichita, being like, hi guys, I'm here again.
I'm back with new stories.
I've also heard there's a service center possibly in Albuquerque, and there's also a new one in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So there are increasing options.
Okay.
Still none in Colorado, which is interesting to me because Colorado is like one of the most EV forward states with
Yeah.
like the best incentives. So I don't know why they don't have anything here yet, but
Hmm.
I'm not making the decisions on that end. So
No, we're not. But yeah, okay. So I would like to kind of surmise the questions that you would like VinFast answered about this scenario. And then
Mhm.
also, yeah, I feel like the next steps will be I'll come out to Colorado again or whatever. Hopefully, we can do a road trip, you and I, and return Beak, the Tesla Model 3. And then I can bring VinFast back, go through a stop. But I also like, I don't doubt the experts that they have on hand, but they did ask, like, where are the main VinFast engineers? You know, are they in California? Are
Mhm.
they in Florida? Are they in Wichita? I don't know, you know, so I'm like, okay, because I know some folks have like, you know, the basic foundational skills to troubleshoot, to update a VinFast, but if there's more to do, I would be curious in that. But yeah, so what are the main questions of what we want answered from behind the scenes of this technical snafu that happened with the VF8?
I mean, I don't even know how to necessarily phrase them because it's just all very
What happened?
strange behavior. And it's really comes down to, I think, just flukes that would ideally get worked out through more and more cars. But this is their first major EV. And so, these types of things can happen. And I don't know if it
Mhm.
happened because of, made it to production because of lack of enough testing, but also that this doesn't seem like a common problem. So maybe it is an actual just fluke with our car. It could have just been a fluke in general that will never be replicated again. There's a lot of mystery surrounding the actual issue. I think the more important questions that a lot of our audience might have, including myself, is the logistics of, okay, the car fixed itself, but if it didn't, what would have had to happen? Are we really truly responsible for shipping a car back to a
Mhm.
service center?
Mhm.
And it's, I maybe I get it if someone's like moving to a different state, but like if you're just trying to road trip your car, which any car should be able to do,
Yeah.
um, like, and then it just completely freaks out, the car's fault,
Yeah.
it freaks
Mhm.
out.
Mhm.
And then are you truly stranded? Are you truly like liable for all costs for VinFast to come fix it? I mean, it's like what are all these scenarios? And that's what we were trying to document and figure out. And with my video,
Yeah.
I had no idea what the outcome was. So like throughout the process of filming this, it's like, okay, what is a customer representative story? Obviously,
Yeah.
VinFast is trying to, with many reviews lately, do disaster management. And so they're trying to do whatever they can to help. And I just wanted to make sure we weren't getting special treatment because we're a YouTube channel documenting this car. It's like
Mhm.
I really wanted to find out what would a real VinFast customer experience if they were road tripping and got stranded. So
Yep.
that's a major. That's where most of my questions kind of lie. And then,
Yeah.
okay, if the car is stranded and then you have to ship it back to a place, or what if you do move to a different state? Like you shouldn't be forced to sell your car if you love your car if you move to a state where there's no actual VinFast service. And then if something happens to that car in a different state, is your warranty no longer valid? That does not sit well with me or pretty much anyone.
Mhm.
Um, like even if you move to a different state and you're like, okay, I get it, I moved, it's my responsibility to get it to VinFast if it needs anything.
Mhm.
Okay, but then if you get it there, you ship it there on your own dime, and then they try to charge you for repairs that should be within vehicle warranty. I
Mhm.
don't know, because the website is very proud of states proudly a fantastic warranty, and
Yeah.
also other things though that don't exist like over the air
Yep.
updates. Like
I was
if you go
about
to
to say.
vinfast.com, still
Yeah.
says over the air updates.
They
The
have
car
some
even says
statements. Mhm.
the car even says over the air updates, but then if you try to select it, it's like, oh, this is not available.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
just it is rough. I am very outwardly not a fan of this car, but I am outwardly actually a fan of VinFast handling this and how they worked with me. They were very responsive, and were really trying to do whatever they could. And they were also very pleasant to work with. I've worked in customer service. I pay special attention to how I'm handled when I have to call into customer service, and they are all
Mhm.
super fantastic. Again, I don't know if that's because they knew who we were, but I'd like to think that they're just good people, and everyone I talked to just gave me that vibe. So it was not bad whatsoever to work with VinFast. It's just
Good.
I wish the car was better. And there's a lot of things that
Yeah.
can make the car better. A lot of functionality. I have hardware issues with the car, but like software especially, they can keep revising and working on it. And I know they're trying, and I commend them for that.
Yeah.
And I just wish they would. I mean, even Toyota BZ4X, which we've also ranted on about a podcast recently, has over-the-air updates for the infotainment. Nothing else on the car can get OTA, but the
Oh.
infotainment can, and that's actually one of the more important things from a user experience perspective. And so if only VinFast could just do the infotainment. Like, I get it. Their direct response when I asked, like, what about OTA? They're like, we want to make sure it's a good experience for our customer. And maybe they're being cautious because with OTA, if you have a software defined car, you could update something regarding the drivetrain. And if that update creates a new bug with the drivetrain, that could be really, really bad. But if it's just software on the infotainment side, the UI UX side of things, then I think they should maybe start with that and get their OTA stuff figured out with that as a pretty non-intrusive test bed situation, and like maybe start with that. Like, that would be my advice. Obviously, I don't know how to run a company, but observing other companies, that's one of the most important components.
Totally. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I know you're not a fan of this car. I don't think this happened to you because of that, or that you caused it either, which some people have joked about.
The comments are funny.
The comments are funny, but I mean, I don't know if it's all the. I mean, we want to push these cars too. We want to know if like this would happen to anyone else and have a realistic ownership experience as well. But yeah, with my 4,000 miles, nothing happened. So interesting. I'm kind of okay that it happened over there instead of here. But it seems like things are kind of okay. We have more to do to get this technically fixed, and we're not exactly sure when it will be to another service center because, like you said, you know, they are not ubiquitous across the US, but I'm glad at least she's drivable. And you're going to go get her today from where you left her. But everyone should definitely check out the Out of Spec Reviews video so they can watch it unfold, you know, and see if they could spot something interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. Me and Andreas had fun for what it's worth. Like, I don't know. It's easy to get very stressed out, and I think if I was in the middle of nowhere, I would have been more stressed. But like, this was more of a like, oh my gosh, okay, what do we do? This is a new story. This is episode 1 of the VinFast Chronicles of some. I wanted to come up with a name for the series, and you know, Kyle was like, okay, well, we'll just do a video a day until it's fixed. It's like each video is an episode, but it was fixed basically in 2 days. So I kind of combined what was originally going to be 2 different episodes into one because we did have an actual resolution, which is funny because I had the video done unresolved, and I was about to post it, and I was like, let me go plug the car in, and then it fixed itself. So I was like, I have to redo the ending, like, because now we have a resolution of sorts. So if more things happen, you guys know where to find out the continuation of said story.
For sure. They know where to go. And let us know what questions you might have for Jordan and his experience. Or if anything, if you're a VinFast owner, if anything has happened to you, or if you're an EV owner, if anything like this has happened to you, let us know. But I am glad that things are resolved. I would love to figure out more of the mystery of exactly what happened, because I think it's a cool puzzle. And yeah, we'll have a positive attitude, because why not? It's that easy. But luckily you were not stranded on your way to or from Missouri.
Yeah, that would have been just the worst, because the whole reason I took that trip, by the way, was to go to a concert, and the concert was canceled as I got into town. So it's like, that would have been insult to injury.
And you didn't have any buddies on the road trip, like no Rafiki, no Frank. No
Rafiki. Yeah, everyone's like, where's Rafiki? And I was like, I know.
Rafiki should come with the VinFast. Well, thank you, Jordan, for the update. I'll keep checking in with you about any updates until, I get out there next month in September. And thanks everyone for tuning in for another episode of the Out of Spec podcast. Send good vibes to the VinFast and drive safely, stay charged. We'll see you next time. Bye.